Hey everyone, welcome to the Tory Burch Foundation webinar on finding your brand voice. I'm Gabrielle Raymond McGee, the Chief Operating Officer of the Foundation. We know that words matter, and we've received many requests for tips on how to brand your business, how to communicate about your business in these uncertain times. And this is why I am so excited to have Amber Williams here today. Amber is a master brand strategist and copywriter. She's been featured in Forbes, Black Enterprise, Blavity, and the list goes on and on and on. So welcome, Amber.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super duper excited to be here and just chat about one of my favorite topics in business.
Well, great, Amber. So many people have questions about the right words, how to use the right words when talking about this pandemic and us all surviving through it, using words to take a stand for social justice in the Black community, and certainly for using the right words to keep their business afloat and hopefully have it thrive for the long term. So I know we're in for a real treat because you're going to share all of your tips on branding with us. And I just want to remind everyone that the whole reason this web series is here is for you. So please do not be shy. Ask your questions in the chat below, and I will monitor that chat and ask away. So without further ado, Amber, over to you.
Yes. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you all have signed up to just learn and talk about this super duper important topic, especially right now. So 2020 has been a whirlwind, to say the least. It has been the year of unexpected everything, unexpected business challenges, unexpected business opportunities, and an unexpected call of duty, really, for business owners and leaders in business to use their voices to stand up and speak out. And so I'm so excited to chat with you about this idea of finding your brand voice in a world full of noise, because there is a lot of noise out there, and every single one of us wants to cut through that clutter and make the right kind of noise and say the right kind of things to the right people in the right way. And that is exactly what we are going to dive into today. I'm just going to share my screen here, and you just let me know when you can see it. All right. So perfect. So I want to unpack this idea of finding your brand voice in three different kind of chapters, if you will. The first idea that I want to chat with you about is the fact that your purpose in your voice is where the power truly lies. So many of us are talking and we're not really taking a minute to consider what our purpose is, why we're even speaking at all. And then the second thing I want to go through with everyone is how to identify the unique brand voice that you should use as a business owner to express your purpose. And then the third piece that we're going to touch on is how you can put it all together and craft your brand message that clearly communicates to your audience who you are, what you stand for, and why you exist. And that's going to be a challenge to you when we leave today.
And Amber, just a reminder for our community, we will be circulating this workbook after this presentation. So feel free to take notes, but know that there will be a workbook to follow. And also this webinar will be recorded. So I know people are taking copious notes and asking those questions, but this will also be on YouTube after the session. Go ahead, Amber.
Okay, perfect. So when we think about this idea of words and the importance of finding the right words, it really kind of boils down to understanding what your words aim to do. And our words are here to express the very foundational ideals of the brand that we created, right? I remember the very first day of my brand strategy class in graduate school, and this was moons ago, well, not too long ago, about 10 years ago. And I remember the professor posing this question to this entire room of overly confident, cocky graduate students. And he asked, what is a brand? And there was a range of answers, as you can imagine. People were replying with things like a brand is an experience, a brand is a logo, a brand is an idea, a brand is something you value, a brand is an identity. There were just so many different answers. And I remember after about 10 or 15 minutes of these responses, he finally stopped us all and said, "You're all wrong. None of these are correct. A brand is not something visual. A brand is not an experience. Brand is not even a statement. A brand is a promise kept." And that has really stayed with me over the past 10 years as I've worked to help different thought leaders and business owners and women entrepreneurs understand how to make their brands stand out. It's this reality that when it boils down to it, your brand is a promise that continues to deliver year after year, product after product, service after service. It's kept in the way that you offer the products or services that you sell, and it's expressed through the words that you use. A brand promise is something that is evergreen. It's always there. It's that thing that people can rely on you to always do. It's that huge umbrella that's bigger than any one thing that you are selling in this moment. It's what has turned small businesses into global brands like Amazon and Nike and McDonald's, and every iconic American brand that you can think of started off as a small business with a simple promise that they wanted to make to the people that they aim to serve. And what has made them so successful is the fact that they have consistently kept that promise, not only in mind as they deliver and create products and services, but they've kept that promise in the words that they use to communicate and connect with their audience. So if you're like most entrepreneurs who are here with us today, and like most of the students that I coach, you are looking up at the sky like this regularly as you face a blank email newsletter, as you face an Instagram caption that you have to write, as you struggle to put together the right words for a presentation or a pitch or any single thing that you need to write to your audience. You're looking up wondering, how do I say it? If that sounds like you, just drop a me in the chat box. This is the number one struggle that entrepreneurs have today, and especially in an age of digital entrepreneurship, right? Everybody's online. You almost have to be to become relevant today. And so the primary question is usually not what to say, right? Many of you have a vision, right? You know what you want to communicate. Your value has been proven, but you just don't quite know how to say it, right? What are the right words? How can I come across in a way that's relatable and that doesn't make me sound like a used car salesman? How do I sell without sounding salesy? How do I tap into important conversations and feel authentic and come across as if I really do care? How do I say that our small business is struggling and we need your support? These are all questions that continue to come up in the small business community. How do I say it? This is something that I myself used to struggle a lot with, almost fearful of putting my true self out there in the attempt to try to be safe. So how do I say it? The number one thing that people want to know when it comes to this idea of brand voice. And so the first thing I want you to write down and remember about this is that the power of your voice, the way that you're going to begin unraveling that how, it lies in your purpose. Here's a simple thing, you all. Before you speak, you should know why. You should know why you are talking in the first place. So often we're just these content machines and we're just drilling out emails and we're drilling out new products and descriptions and social media captions and Facebook Lives and podcast episodes. And we're just rolling in this cycle of content production because the world says that we need to, right? We need to be visible. We need to make our message heard. We need to be consistent. You have to be on this channel, that channel. You have to be here. You got to talk regularly. But have you taken a step back to ask yourself why you're saying anything at all? It's something I believe we should all take a break and answer at least once a quarter. Why are you talking? What is it that you are truly looking to communicate to your audience? What does your brand aim to do for its customers beyond just selling? Consider the idea that customers, clients, anyone who's buying from you is not necessarily buying the tangible thing that you sell. They're not necessarily buying those flowers from your boutique. They're not necessarily buying those fashion pieces from your new collection or that lipstick that you just launched or that coaching program that you created. They're not necessarily buying that tangible thing. What if you consider the idea that they are buying how that thing makes them feel? We're all in the business of selling emotion because customers buy from brands and they buy products that make them feel a certain way. I didn't just buy this red lipstick, right? I bought confidence. That's what I was looking for, right? Everyone is selling something beyond what they are really, really selling. And when you're able to identify what I like to call that emotional value proposition, right? That emotional thing that that person is going to get after the transaction, well, that's when your voice starts to really come across as authentic, when you understand what feeling it is that you're looking to portray through your messaging and with your brand. I don't know if anyone saw the Netflix series a couple months ago. It was called Self-Made, and it was about Madam C.J. Walker. And I knew just a little bit about the history of this beauty brand, but I didn't know everything, especially when it came to this brand's purpose. And so Madam C.J. Walker is America's first female self-made millionaire. And she started as a small business woman entrepreneur selling hair products on the street, literally. And so you have to ask yourself, well, how could someone selling something that today is viewed as a commodity, right? Hair products, you can get those from anywhere. How did they rise to such a level of notable success? There had to be something beyond the special ingredients in those hair products. And in diving deep into her story and kind of unpacking some of the messaging behind this brand, well, I came to understand that Madam C.J. Walker and her entire brand focused on a purpose that transcended those products. And it allowed them to be in business for years and years and years. And this is one of the things that she said in speaking about business that has always kind of stayed with me since I read this. She said, I want you to understand that your first duty is to humanity. I want others to look at us and see that we care not just about ourselves, but about others. The majority of people in business today share a similar philosophy. The majority of people in business today, you and me included, deeply care about the impact our products or services have on the people that we serve. There's something there that drives us every single day beyond just the dollar. We're impact driven, just like Madam C.J. Walker was. And at the time when she was selling hair products to Black women, society was in a place where women entrepreneurship was not celebrated whatsoever. It wasn't even encouraged. It was not affirmed. And in many instances, it was not even recognized. And so the purpose behind her brand was simple. It was to empower. She not only wanted to make women look pretty, or make their hair appear nice or easier to manage. She wanted to empower them with a tool that would allow them to present themselves more confidently in the world around them. And that is what gave this brand lasting power in the marketplace and what made it stand out. The power of her voice was in this purpose of empowerment. The Tory Burch Foundation, the reason that we're all here today, has a similar purpose to empower. The Tory Burch Foundation exists to empower women entrepreneurs just like those of you joining us today with the tools and resources and knowledge necessary to embrace your own ambition and go after whatever it is that you want to go after in this life. And so I want you to ask yourself, what is your purpose? And here's why it's important. Harvard Business Review recently did a study just a few years ago, and it was called Competing on Social Purpose. And they found, and this should be no surprise to any of us here, that consumers are increasingly expecting the brands that they buy from to have not just functional benefits, but a purpose, a clear purpose. The same researchers who did this study found just a few years prior that 66% of customers today are buying from brands whose values and whose purpose aligns with their own. Now, that's a powerful insight, in my opinion. It lets me know that the day and age of selling just to sell, the day and age of speaking only about your product or services benefits, that day is gone. It's completely gone. And so here's some different kind of options, if you will, that you can start thinking about what your brand purpose is. Some brands have a purpose to motivate, right? Those bold thought leaders that we follow, those, against the status quo people who constantly put out those messages. They want to motivate you and light that fire under you. Some brands want to enlighten and bring the people in their community to a new level of understanding about something they never even considered before. Some brands exist to affirm. Many beauty brands fall into this category. They want to affirm something within their customers. They want to affirm the natural beauty their customers already have, right? Some brands exist to inspire and uplift. Some brands exist to assure, to clarify, to encourage, to relieve. If you have your notebook handy, I want you to write down what you believe your purpose is as a brand. Because until we define this, we can't define what words you should use. You have to understand why you're speaking in the first place. What is your purpose? I'll use myself for an example. So I launched my personal brand just a little earlier this year. Before that, I operated a brand storytelling agency for about 5 years. And so what I came to realize is that the people that I wanted to serve were people who were very much like my peers, right? They were other thought leaders who had some level of mastery in their respective fields, and they had this message in their head and they just couldn't get it out. The people in my community, they know what they want to say. Their value has been proven. They just need somebody to unpack it. And so my purpose as a brand, as a personal brand, is to clarify first their vision and then that message so they can finally get it out onto the page and share it with the people that they aim to serve. If you consider someone like Brene Brown, who is an amazing author, amazing just thought leader and just change maker in our society today, one of the voices that I love and follow and so many others do, I view Brene Brown as someone whose purpose is to enlighten a huge community of women and men about the power of vulnerability and how we should all embrace our own stories and remove the fear of sharing it with others. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But these voices that we follow in the marketplace, these brands that truly stand out, the reason why they are in the box of success is because they have a clearly defined purpose that is kept in their promise. And it's recognizable and it comes out through every expression and every action that they take. Here's the reality. A purpose-driven brand is the only one that matters today. It's the only one. Years ago, we would have said that there are certain brands that fall in this purpose-driven brand category, right? It would have been the Warby Parkers of the world. It would have been the Toms of the world. It would have been the brands who donate or have a social cause tied to their business. But today, the only brands that are relevant, the only brands who are projected to rise to the top are the ones that have a strong purpose. And no matter how small your business is, it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur and you're the only person working in your business, you must clarify your purpose. And that has to drive everything that you do. I think about Ben and Jerry's. I don't know how many people like Ben and Jerry's ice cream, or if you guys buy the fancy organic gelato from the organic market. That used to be me until I came to an awareness of Ben and Jerry's purpose as a brand. And a lot of people weren't quite aware of everything Ben and Jerry's was doing when it came to social good or equality or standing up for what's right. But in the midst of this racial uprising that we've been facing in our society, an uprising that has really put the onus on us as business owners to use our voices for good and to use our voices to stand for something and to speak out. Well, Ben and Jerry's released a statement, an anti-racism statement that was really one of the best ones that I saw, one of the best ones that was seen in the business world. I remember some of the language that they used in their message was that the police stole a life and stole a future and stole a dream. And if you really hone in on those words and kind of dissect them in the context of this business, you find that what happened in our society, the reason why Ben and Jerry's was so up in arms about it, is because it was so contrary to the purpose and values that this brand holds and has always held for years and years and years in their business. And when I read that statement and when I came to understand the other actions Ben & Jerry's has been taking when it comes to equality, the other actions they've been taking when it comes to social justice, I put them on my list of brands that keeps their promises. That purpose alone drove me to buy a half a gallon of chocolate chip cookie dough Ben & Jerry's and almost ate the whole thing in a Friday night after my kids went to sleep. It just makes you want to support these brands. A strong purpose that aligns with who you are and what you feel is important, it makes you want to buy from that business. Because let's be honest, you can buy ice cream anywhere. You can get business coaching anywhere. You can find a community of women entrepreneurs anywhere. You can get lipstick, perfume, fashion, shoes, anywhere. What helps make customers make the right decision and what really tips that decision-making process is 100% the purpose and the values that a brand has. 100%. Standing out in a world full of noise, it starts here. It starts with this very idea, and you have to stand for something. You first have to stand for something if you want to stand out. Or else, why should someone care about your brand? Why should someone buy from you? And today, our answer really has to be more than just features and benefits. So that's the first idea I wanted to unpack with you all. Gabrielle, did we want to take some questions before jumping into the next section?
That would be great, Amber. We have many questions, and first of all, thanks for giving us all permission to buy and eat lots of Ben & Jerry's.
Yes, go
Very
get them.
Exciting. So a number of questions about purpose. Ashley writes, I feel authentic in the emotions I portray and evoke with my brand, but I struggle with transferring the emotions into service. How do we reverse construct this concept?
Gabrielle, you beat up just a little bit in the beginning. So the struggle is expressing emotion in service.
So Ashley feels she's authentic in her emotions for purpose, and she portrays that in her brand, but she's struggling with transferring her emotions into her service business.
Okay. I'm not sure what the service business is, but you have to ask yourself, okay, the very reason that you're offering a service, there's a reason that you're offering a service, I should say, okay? And so go back to that why, of why you are in business. You're in business to help people do what? You're in business to help them shift some behavior, help them shift some way of thinking, to do something different, to see themselves differently. What is it that you're ultimately trying to achieve in the services that you deliver? So put simply, how do you want them to feel after they've experienced your services? And whatever that emotion is that you want them to feel is what you can use in your messaging. It's kind of like when you go to a website, right? And that very first statement that you see on top of that hero image, it should have that emotion word in there. And then you roll down to explain more about your services. But you can start with finally feel ... or have the confidence to, achieve whatever you dream, or you want to think about that end result, and whatever that emotion is, put it in that very first line that introduces your brand.
So Rashida is asking about the difference between motivation versus inspiration. Can you provide some clarity on that?
So the motivation, in terms of the actual feelings, the purpose?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Motivate or inspire? Sure. Okay. So when you think about motivation is essentially, those are the brands that are looking to shift someone's thinking about what they can do. Many brands that have a purpose to motivate are bold and authoritative. I think about Michelle Obama. If you just look at Michelle Obama, for example, right? Her entire When We All Vote campaign. She is hoping to motivate an entire audience of people who would have never believed that they could change anything in the world around them to take one simple action that can make a major change. And so everything that she says has strong action words like go, do, now, you can, be the difference, be the change. So if you're in business to motivate, you're really trying to help your customers think differently about the power that they have within themselves. That's sort of the short answer. And then to inspire, if your purpose is to inspire, then what you're trying to help your customers or community do is see where they could be. A lot of fashion brands fall into this category. They fall into the aspirational, inspirational purpose category. You want to make your customers believe that there's something greater or better than what exists now. Whether that's a look, whether that's a way of life, whether it's a way of thinking, you're helping them to see something that's within their reach. Does that answer the question?
It does, and we have many here. So
Okay.
Kat Leo from South Africa is asking about if purpose should be a statement, so a number of words rather than one word, or what your opinion is of the length of your purpose.
Sure. So we're just specifically speaking about the emotion here in your purpose. We're going to dive into how to put it all together into an actual mission statement. That's actually going to be the challenge when we leave here today. But for now, I just want you to define in one word what your overall purpose is to do as a business emotionally. Is it to clarify, motivate, enlighten, inspire? What is that purpose?
So we have a question about how you really know if a brand believes what they say, right?
Oh.
So right now there are so many statements from companies about anti-racism. So how should either customers or small business owners sniff out what's authentic?
That is a great question. And I mean, we're fortunate enough to have the World Wide Web at our disposal to dissect any brand and any action that they've ever taken and every word that they've ever said in recent history. We can find that out. And so you can easily discover if a brand really means what they say by diving into what actions they have taken that back up this statement in the past, right? What actions have they taken in the past as a brand, whether that's partnerships, whether that's in their hiring, how they build their teams, whether it's in how they come to create a product. You can look at that and see if they're authentic. And if you don't find any history there, then you can look at what it is that they say that they plan to do and whether or not the current messages that they're putting out there really align with that. And I think a lot of brands have found themselves in some in strong positions when it comes to this and some in unfortunate positions when people find out that the statement that they created is actually just something for the sake of being trendy, right? If you consider what happened with Starbucks recently and how they banned their employees from wearing Black Lives Matter shirts. Well, the reason why there was such an uproar around that is because the express brand promise of Starbucks is to inspire moments of optimism and uplift. That's what's found on their website. That's what they say they're here to do. And they expand on that by saying for every person, in every cup, for every neighborhood. And so when you make a decision that's contrary to your express promise, that's contrary to the purpose that you work to visually communicate online, on social, that's when people find themselves in a situation where they're making a decision on whether or not they're going to still support your brand or not. But it's easy to find out. You can just Google them or check their Instagram.
So we have many solo entrepreneurs on this video, and Erica's asking if you can delineate, if you're a solo entrepreneur, are you the brand voice? Is that the same thing as your company's brand voice? How do you delineate the two as a solo entrepreneur?
Sure, that's something we're going to dive in this next section, but I'll answer it quickly and say that if you're a solopreneur, then your natural personality, your natural brand voice that you have now, that is the voice that your brand should take on, right? Now, when it comes to expressing it online, it almost has to be exaggerated in a way so that you can stand out. When we're speaking just in everyday language, not online, or when we're not speaking as CEOs, all of our personality traits don't always come out, right? When I'm talking to my kids on a daily basis, or when I'm talking to my parents or my husband, like all of my personality traits aren't coming out in every single word. But when I'm communicating online on behalf of my business, my personality traits, savviness, sarcasm, that has to be amplified to make my voice recognizable in a crowded market. Now, if you are a product-based business, right, and you're not necessarily the face of your business, then your brand has to take on a certain identity and voice that aligns with what the customers are truly looking for. And in those beginning stages, it usually is somewhat born out of the founder's personality traits and out of the founder's voice, but it ultimately grows into take its own personality. And we're going to talk about how you can identify that as we jump into this next section.
Great. Well, Amber, why don't you do that? Because I know we have a lot more content to cover, and we'll try to get to as many of these questions after the next section.
Sure. All right. So you first define your purpose, and now we are going to define how you should express that and how you should speak. We know why we're speaking. Now let's talk about how. So this is my favorite part. This is the fun part. If you don't have your notebooks and your pen, grab it now, because I want you to self-identify what you believe your unique brand voice is. So when I think about writing, when I think about the idea of using language to connect and convert for business, I always go back to this quote, and it says that writing is the painting of the voice. And it's so true, and most people wouldn't agree or wouldn't disagree with this, so to speak. But I put it up on my wall in my office to remind myself that my words are the painting of my voice and no one else's. It's very tempting when you sit down to create content or to write for your brand. It's extremely tempting to look at the voices of others and what seems to be working for this person or that business or that conference or that organization. We do it all the time. We have to remember that the number one rule of writing well is to sound like yourself, is to be authentic. So writing is the painting of the voice, but writing is the painting of your voice in your business. And this is where tone comes into play. And this is where you can really be unique and be yourself as a CEO. So put simply, the definition of brand voice is how you sound, right? You usually know the what. Brand voice is how you say it. How do you express excitement? How do you say buy now? How do you say we just launched this product, right? How do you say I'm sorry? How do you say we made a mistake? How do you say we need your support? This is where your brand voice comes into play. And so the benefit of it is that a strong brand voice helps you express your purpose, right? We want people to clearly understand what your business is here to do. It helps you stand out in the marketplace. and it builds lasting trust with the customers that you aim to serve. And a lot of times we don't always think about the idea of brand voice as a trust builder, but it is. It's this in the same way that a brand takes consistent action in their business to fulfill their promise. When a brand continues to talk in a certain way and continues to speak in a way that you can rely on and recognize, it builds trust in your authenticity, that you are who you say you are. And that is powerful, and that can really help you stick around in the marketplace. And it's also incredibly essential for writing content that connects with the right people and converts them into paying customers. We don't want to be sounding like our competition one day and then switching back to sound like ourselves the next day. It's confusing to the customer. It's just as confusing as a logo that continues to swap every couple of months, right? Super essential to have a defined brand voice. So I have a question for you, and you can just type yes or no in the comments. If someone were to take a look at your email newsletters, at your social media captions, any speeches you've written lately, any product descriptions, any copy that you've put out there into the world, if someone were to look at all that, throw it together and put it into a book, would that book have your name on it? Would they know that this language and these words and these phrases are without a doubt coming from you? This is a question I asked myself several months ago as I was working to launch my own personal brand. And I noticed who my competitors were in the space, and I wanted to stand out, but yet I kept looking at how they said, how do they describe this offer? How do they kind of touch on the pain points? What words are they using? It seems to be working for them, right? Let me copy and paste. And then I had to take a look at all of my messaging and say, okay, does this book have Amber Williams on the cover? And ask yourself that same thing. Does this book that all of your recent messaging is put in have your name on the cover? Does it have your brand or business name on the cover? Is it recognizable that this language has come out of your mouth? And if your answer is no, then I'm really excited to jump into this next part of our presentation. If your answer is yes, then you can probably teach me something. But let's go ahead and dive in, because my guess is that the majority of people will say that their answer is no. Your words alone would not be recognizable. You would need your picture, you would need your products, you would need your brand name in order for people to really know it's recognizable. And what I want to challenge everyone here to strive for is a strong enough brand voice that stands on its own. If nothing else is standing with it, if there's no visuals, if there's no name there, we want people to know that this is you. And so I have identified 6 common brand voice types for women entrepreneurs, and I'm going to walk through them with you all as quickly as possible here. And I want you to identify which one you believe that you are, and then we'll chat about some of the copywriting implications and how you can walk away from our meeting today in crafting a strong message with this voice. So the very first brand voice type is classic and timeless. These are the Jackie O's, the Michelle Obamas, the Lemaire's of the world. These are the brands that just have this classic vibe about themselves. And they really play this role of enlightening people. So if you fall into this category, you help people see the world in a new way. You open up possibilities they never knew existed. You're one of those people who knows that there's nothing new under the sun, but you create fresh solutions to simple problems that have a profound impact on your customers' lives. And so your purpose may be to enlighten others. Is this your voice? Classic and timeless. Now, most people who fall within this category are people who have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, and they're really driven by the idea of making an impact, not just a dollar. So ask yourself, is this your brand voice? Now, when it comes to copy, classic and timeless brand voices should stay away from trends, okay? You have that almost perennial tone that just lasts through the test of time. You should use story as a means for selling. Incorporate personal anecdotal stories to connect with your audience. And your aim in your messaging is to always persuade people to think differently. Drop classic and timeless in the comments if that is your brand voice. Second brand voice, and this is a fun one, cheerful and bubbly. All right, so if you're a cheerful and bubbly brand voice, you're kind of like that cheerleader, right? You help people see this world. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Little error here. But if you're cheerful and bubbly, you're like the BFF to your customers, right? You're always cheering them on. You're always encouraging them. You're reminding them that they can do it. They can be better, right? You're just shy of lighting that fire. You're that person who is by their side through every step in their personal journey, always letting them know that they can do it. They have the power within themselves. But you're fun, right? You deliver your products and services almost in a cheeky, laid back kind of fun way. That's the cheerful and bubbly brand voice. And so when it comes to your copy, you almost take like a bestie's tone. So your language should sound like it's coming from a friend who's sitting right across from them in a coffee shop. You're tapping into day-to-day interests and trending topics, and you are sharing what's happening in your life all the time. These are the people who are oversharing, but it works, right? Because they are the BFF. And you want to kind of expose your community to what's happening behind the scenes. Being a human and humanizing your day-to-day activities within your business, super important for cheerful and bubbly brand voices. Right? Drop it in the comments if this is your brand voice. Third brand voice, authoritative and inspiring. Now I like this one because this is for those type A bona fide leaders, period. So you're the type who uses systems and tools and products that you know work, and you're helping people build something bigger than themselves. Think about those brands who are creating movements, those brands who galvanize people around an idea, right? Your work brings people together under a common goal. And so your purpose may be to cultivate. You could be cultivating community. You could be cultivating a new mindset. You want to cultivate something larger than people ever could have imagined. And because of your strong experience, you've done it yourself. And so people look to you as inspiration, as the ultimate case study. Drop in the comments if that's your brand voice. When it comes to your copy, you want to make sure that you use phrases that explain the ideals of your brand, what you believe in, why you believe in them, right? And how those ideals have helped you get to where you are today. You want to incorporate hot topics, share your strong and inspiring personal story, because that story is what's going to inspire your audience. This is the authoritative and inspiring brand voice. Confident and analytical. I love this one too. A lot of strategists, business, brand, or marketing strategists fall into this category. So you're the type who unpacks visions, you create strategies for success, and you live for a plan. All of my planners, all of my Enneagram type 1s in here, you like a method to the madness. And people really look to you to dump out all of their ideas or all of their problems so that you can extract what's really happening and give them a solution that they can follow. And so your brand purpose may be to clarify. Drop in the comments if you feel like this is your brand voice, confident and analytical. Now, your copy should be relatable. This is the thing. People who have confident and analytical brand voices have a strong depth of knowledge in their specific fields. And so you want to inform and educate, but you want to come down to earth too and be relatable. What makes people follow you and stay within your community is your forward-thinking ideas. So be sure to share those, right? Be sure to challenge the status quo, right? You can echo old concepts with your fresh perspective to really communicate that analytical nature within yourself. Bold and motivational. So this is a fun one too. These are the movers, the shakers, and they want everybody to move and shake with them. So if you have a bold and motivational brand voice, you usually know who you are. So you're the type who lights a fire under your customers to propel them to action. Think about Tony Robbins. He is the definition of bold and motivational. So you're like the sports coach, right? You're pushing your best player forward. You're constantly telling them, go get it, stay in the game, live up to your full potential. And this really is one of those voices that applies quite well for product and service-based businesses. So your brand purpose may be to motivate. Now, when it comes to your copy, you should be short, punchy, to the point. A lot of people who have this voice, they use sarcasm to communicate their message, and they incorporate statistics in these fiery quotes for the sake of shock value. Remember, you're bold, so you're always shocking people, right? You're the ones who stop the scroll. And finally, the last brand voice is genuine and assuring. So these are the brands that take a softer approach to servicing their clients or their customers. So you may be in a position where you're helping people face the world with a little less worry. Maybe you're trying to help people relieve themselves of some frustration, but you're giving them this confidence. And so your voice is like that constant reassurance in their heads. And it's sounding like it's coming from their best girlfriend. And it's letting them know that everything's going to be okay, right? Everything that you need is right within yourself. Your brand purpose may be to assure if this is your brand voice. And so those are the 6 most common brand voice types. And for this last one, your copy has to be down to earth. It's got to be in everyday language. And most importantly, you have to listen more than you speak by asking frequent questions that spark conversations. And you want to affirm your audience constantly with quotes that assure them of whatever they have and how whatever they have is everything that they need. So those are the 6 common brand voice types. I have found that most women entrepreneurs fall in one of those 6 categories. Gabrielle, I don't know if we wanted to answer a few questions before we close out.
Why don't we close your portion, and then we'll get to as many questions as possible. I know we're short on time.
Sure. So see if you can identify one of those 6 brand voices that you fall within. As Gabrielle mentioned earlier, everyone is going to receive a workbook. So you're going to get a few questions to really help you come to the conclusion of what your brand voice is. But the key, after identifying that unique brand voice, is to then express it through that core message statement. And I always like to challenge people to sum up their purpose that we identified in the beginning here in just 10 words or less. And you'll find that understanding your voice will help you do that. And you're going to get some prompts that are going to help you kind of come to that power statement that will be the first window into your brand, why you exist, and what you stand for. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for allowing me to share this topic that I'm so passionate about. Gabrielle, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Well, Amber, we may need to bring you back because
I would love to come back.
There are so many questions here. So I'll try to run through a number of topics. Many people are asking if purpose can include different missions, or can it be multi-tiered, or do you really need to hone in on one purpose for your business?
Yeah, I believe that you really need to hone in on one purpose. Even if you're a B2B company and you have this business audience that you have to serve, and you also have this end user, somewhere in the middle of the two is a shared desire, a shared emotional desire that your business or brand fulfills. And so see if you can narrow that purpose down to something that appeals to both of those audiences.
Rahila is starting a modest clothing company to support Muslim women, and her goal is to make sure that Muslim women feel confident, comfortable, and happy. So she wants to know, what should her purpose be? And also, if she focuses on one group, will others feel excluded?
That's a great question. So comfortable, confident, and happy. Well, I think you just defined it, right? Could your purpose be to evoke confidence in the women that you aim to serve, who may not have a lot of fashion options that help them express who they are uniquely? And so it sounds like you've already defined that. And then the question of how can you communicate to those people without isolating others? This comes up a lot, right? And this is my answer, is what I always say. Just because you talk directly to one audience or one person doesn't mean others won't buy. And the reason why is because whatever values that your brand stands for, that does not only attract the primary people in your target customer. If you speak to someone who your want-to-be customers ultimately want to become, they will still follow, because it's the same person, just at a different point in the customer journey. So be unapologetic about who your brand is here to serve, and others who are interested and who buy into those same values will also buy from you.
And be really clear on your audience. T's asking something similar but a little different. She's a Black-owned company geared towards Afrocentric products, and she wants to know if this would hurt her visibility or inclusivity, that she's very specific in what her company is.
Not at all. Not at all. If anything, you could potentially hurt yourself by attempting to be all-inclusive. Right? And we find that a lot of brands, beauty brands who target very specific niche audiences, find themselves getting into trouble when they try to appeal to all people. Because the reality is your products are designed for a specific audience. And when you speak directly to that audience, they become champions of your brand because you were unapologetic about your intentions, because your purpose was clear. You want to be clear and unapologetic in your purpose. And other people who appreciate that may also buy in.
So Taylor from Baggett Beauty from Detroit is asking about the visual side of branding and purpose. So when you're telling your story, how do you bring this to life visually? So any tips from an aesthetic perspective?
Yeah, so this is kind of outside my world, but kind of part of it. So when you defined your purpose and the emotional selling proposition, what that thing is, that feeling that you're ultimately looking to achieve, it's going to come out in your language, but the mood of your photography or the mood of how your own pictures are portrayed, that should also be translated. So if your purpose is to evoke confidence in your customers, then you should be that person that has that power money shot with your hands on your hips in your audience or in your office or in someone's office, and you're looking dead at the camera with ultimate confidence. And so it comes across on both sides, the verbal and the visual. But I would say for visual, it's the mood of the photography, of the imagery that's translated from that purpose.
And Amber, you're certainly a visual leader. Your site is beautiful, so everyone should check that out. We have a number of nonprofit founders on this video, and people in the nonprofit space are asking if brand voice, all of your lessons here apply to nonprofits as well, or just for profit. And I would say they certainly apply to nonprofit as well, but anything to add there?
Yeah, they absolutely do. I mean, whether you're a for-profit business or a nonprofit business, your goal is to impact people in some way. And if you're a nonprofit, that purpose is even stronger at times, and you have even more of a responsibility to make that purpose known. And so when it comes to your brand voice, you can absolutely, as a nonprofit, take on one of those brand voices. Voice is really just about how you express that purpose. So absolutely, it does apply.
Amber, we're getting many requests for you to come back, so we'll have to chat after this.
I'd love to come back. Thank you.
And it sounds like a number of people are confused as to if they could have different styles in their branding. So a number of people felt like maybe they were classic or they were that best friend. And so can you shed some light? Is it okay to be in different categories, and how does that come into play?
Sure. So those 6 that we talked about today, those are really just the common categories that most women entrepreneurs find themselves in. But yours may mix and match, right? You could be confident and cheerful, and that's totally fine. You could be, bold and bubbly, right? There's a lot of thought leaders who are bold and bubbly. That's totally fine. What's important is that you identify that and then spend some time in jotting down the way that you express things that are bold and that are bubbly or that are confident and, or that are cheerful, and making sure that every line and word that you put out takes on that tone. It's really like a measuring stick for yourself to use.
And Amber, I'm excited to share the great news for everyone on this call, which is Amber has generously offered a 14-day trial for her Copy Mastery program, which is an online program for everyone on this call for just $1.
Yes, $1.
So thank you, Amber. I know we have, I think, hundreds and hundreds of people on this call that will take advantage of that. Awesome. And we'll certainly circulate that code in the email follow-up as well as the workbook. So everyone be on the lookout. And Amber, thank you so much. This has been incredible.
Thank you. I hope everyone has taken some value away from today.
Indeed. And we want to make sure that everyone knows that next week on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, same time as usual, we'll be joined by Alex Carter to discuss negotiation. Alex wrote the Wall Street Journal bestseller, Ask for More, which all of us need to do, especially as women. So make sure to sign up for that webinar. And we know the world of finance continues to change for small businesses, so be sure to check out our financial FAQ on the torybirchfoundation.org website. We update that FAQ on a weekly basis. There's information about the new deadline for PPP of August 8th, so stay in the loop and know that we want to help guide you during this confusing time on the finance side of small businesses. And if you've missed any of our past episodes for this series, check out the Tory Burch Foundation YouTube channel. All of our sessions can be found there, including this one. And thanks, everyone. Be well.
Bye.
Take care.